Hi guys, welcome back to Gardening with Creations by DX & Co. I went shopping last night and bought two new bushes for the backyard. One is a blackberry and one is a raspberry, so I'm actually not ready to plant them yet, so I'm actually going to repot them into some larger pots, and they should do just fine in these for up to 3 years. I'm hoping to get their backyard garden ready to go by next year, so hopefully we'll get them in the ground by next year. But I want to show you what they look like, what I'm doing to repot them. So in case you guys want to do something like this, a bit of container gardening with some of your particular fruit bushes, if you will. So stay tuned, let's get started. See guys, I went and picked out from the depot a thornless blackberry. It's a heaven can wait variety. So this particular variety is obviously a bush plant, but it's nice because it is thornless, and this one is pretty healthy looking. You can see it's got some new shoots growing on here. There are some leaves I may have to deadhead a little bit. It may not produce fruit this year. I'm okay with that, but I want to get them into some larger pots. Now this raspberry, believe it or not, is looking very sickly. It was the best one that they had. I think the cold weather and being out in the parking lot didn't really do well for this one in particular. You can see, looks like we got a lot of deadheading in some of these leaves, so I'm going to go through pruning some of that today. But the reason I chose this one in particular is the way raspberries grow, they grow underground and then they shoot up new shoots. So there's one new shoot and two new shoots. So this particular plant, even if I lost the one in the middle, I still have two other additional plants. So this is how easy raspberries can spread. And you could dig this one up, plant it in a completely separate pot, and have multiple raspberry bushes and or give it away. So this is not the thornless variety. It is the actual heritage variety. And heritage variety, as well as like the strawberry shortcake variety, which is a thornless variety, they do very well in pots. So they're more of a dwarf variety than your standard raspberry bush, if you will. So the kids wanted red raspberry, so that's what we went with. So stay tuned. I'm gonna prune up some of these leaves and things like that, and then we'll get them into some larger pots here that we have. You want to look for 24 inches in diameter minimum. This one's close to 30. So I've got two of them stacked there, and I've got some potting mix that we'll be utilizing for that. So stay tuned guys, I'll show you what that looks like. So it's a very rainy day outside, so we're working inside in the kitchen today. But what I'm looking to do is, most people are afraid to prune their plants, and typically speaking, you wouldn't prune a raspberry bush or any type of fruit tree or anything perennial till the fall time. But when you start to have dead leaves on almost any of your crops, they're still focusing a lot of energy back into those leaves and trying to get them to grow. So it's actually healthier for your plant if you start taking off some of the dead things. So I'm looking at these branches, just trying to see, are they dried out? Are they green still? Are they still producing life? Do I want to just cut off the branch, or do I want to just cut off the leaves? So I'm going to go through here and just kind of take my snippers. You could do it with your fingers, but remember, this is a thorn variety, so you want to be a little bit careful. But you can see on a lot of these, in particular like this one, these leaves are browning, they're dying. And what that means to me is that this particular plant is sending off a lot of energy to keep these leaves going, and that's not healthy. I'd rather refocus some of the energy back into the root of the plant, especially with transplanting them. So I'm going to go through and deadhead or cut off most of these leaves and try to save the stems, and we'll see how it goes. Like I said, I've got these new shoots on this one, so even if I lost this plant, which I don't expect to do, then we'd still be okay. So I'm going to get all these leaves off, and then I'm going to throw them actually in the compost pile to save for later. This one, I just snipped the branch a little bit off there, And that's all there is to it, guys. So let me get this cleaned up and I'll show you what it looks like. Okay guys, I'm still in the process of pruning this, but I wanted to show you kind of an example of what you're looking out for. So if I was going through this in the springtime and I noticed, it looks like almost all of this here is dead, right? So you'd almost think, oh, let me cut all that out of there. But I want to show you with these style bushes, you see this part looks like it's completely dead, and I may have actually clipped it off, but look at the new growth actually still continues to come out of those in the springtime. This particular branch here is new growth coming out of what looks like a dead stem. And there's several examples around all of the bush of how that works. So with that, guys, keep in mind that's why it's better to prune this style bush in the fall, to where you're shaping it, so on and so forth. In the spring, it can almost look like it's dead and still be producing new life. So something to keep in mind as you're looking at your plants and the overall health of your plants. All right, guys, you can see the amount that I took off this plant here. So you can see those shoots were actually doing very well, so I didn't have to prune anything off of those. But as we go up here, you can see I took quite a bit off. I tried to go, so where you can see this leaf, I tried to go right behind the node there of each of these leaves where appropriate, so that way I could really promote new growth. I'll probably clip this entire stem off there, but you can see the top is still doing very well, and it's hard to get some focus here. See if we can refocus the camera on this. Apologize. There we go. So you can see that's doing extremely well. Starting to branch out in between each of these is doing well as well. So I think once we get this repotted, it is actually, if you can see, dark, thunderstorming, rainy out there. So I'm going to try to get this repotted, and I'm actually going to put them out in the rain to try to soak up some of that rainwater as well after I've repotted these. So let me get started with that. I'm going to first fill this with a little bit of potting soil just at the bottom, and then what I'm going to do, put my gloves on of course, I'm going to flip this upside down by holding it right here, and I'm going to kind of squish the sides, break it up, and then I'll show you what that root ball looks like as soon as I get it out. Okay guys, so I've got my soil mixture in here. It's just some standard potting soil, and what I want to do is take my pot of my raspberry that's already potted and just set it in there, because I want to get the height right, because I don't want to go too high. I'm going to backfill around the back of this, but I don't want to bury the stem, because we're not looking to, we want to make sure that this doesn't end up getting stem rot, which a lot of these types of plants and trees are susceptible to it, despite them coming from the ground. When you're transplanting them, the last thing you want to do is encourage root rot. Also, you want to find like a fine mulch like this to be able to put around the top that'll help hold in moisture for those drier days, as well as it'll keep the weeds down. So I do have a type of potting mix, an orchid type potting mix that has a lot of this in it, that I'm going to be sprinkling around the top. I found that works very well with my trees and transplants. So I'm going to finish this last part off with that. So let me go ahead and get this out of here, and I'll show you what that looks like. Okay, so what we're looking to do here is, with any type of transplanting of a tree, bush, what have you, you kind of want to try to break up this as much as possible before you get started. Just kind of squeeze, just loosen it up in there in the pot, especially if it has, it's recommended you water the day before, and then the next day you do this. Helps slide it out of these a little bit easier. And then if you have the ability to just kind of tip it upside down, pull that out. So you can see there, look at all that roots. So what I'm looking to do is kind of actually gently over the pot here, so I don't want to lose any of that, but just start breaking it up, because we want those roots to start to spread out. We don't want them to stay bunched up, but we want them to spread out. See how I'm just gently running my fingers through it? I'm not pulling on it, just kind of loosening them up, because I want the roots to be able to spread out. And I'm actually, as I set it back down in there, trying to spread the roots a little bit. And so now I'm going to take some soil here, and I'm just going to backfill around it. Make sure you position this the way you want it. could have taken my tag off and put it back on afterwards, or tied it to something different. So I'm going to try to wrap that out of my way. So kind of get that position in the middle of the pot how you want it. Kind of hold it with one hand while you backfill just around the rest of it. Fill that in nice there. This really goes the same for potting up any tree, anything you're kind of transplanting. I do this with my transplants as far as vegetables go as well. Just really leaving that hole. You're not looking to pull the plant itself out. You're looking to pull it out of the pot that it's in. Loosen up the roots a little bit to encourage them to start growing outward instead of being wrapped around. And then, you know, just kind of backfilling it with soil to support the rest of that. And eventually, over time, the rest of the roots will start to spread out. The ones that are already in there will help strengthen the tree as it grows. Tree, bush. So now that it's kind of semi-stable, I don't necessarily have to hold it as much since I've gotten a little bit all around. And I can start to continue to backfill this level of soil. And as you've seen, I'm just reusing the top to one of my containers that I'd actually transplanted tomatoes into. So my wife's going to kill me with the mess on the floor, don't tell her. I have to clean that up after we're all done here. This is something I recommend doing outside or in your greenhouse, something like that. Unfortunately, not something I recommend usually doing inside. It'd be lovely if you had a nice potting shed or something, a workspace you could do this type of thing in. Unfortunately, it's pouring down rain outside, and I didn't think that would make for a good video. So, even in the greenhouse, it would be very loud. Alright, so now when you get to this stage here, just kind of pack it in there a little bit, not too tight. You're not looking to force the soil down. You do want it to, when you water it in, though, that it's not, look at that one. That one actually started to fall out the side of that. So that's fantastic. Let's see if I can show you guys. Oh, I managed to hit my camera. This one just kind of loosened up from the soil, kind of started to fall off the side. We could probably pull this down to the root, put it in a new pot. I'm not going to right now, but I wanted to show you. I'm going to save it, leave it in there, give it a nice chance to grow out. But I wanted to kind of show you what that looks like. So I'm going to support it back in place, just backfill with a little bit of disturbance as possible when you're transplanting a plant. You really don't want to create too much disruption, and since we already pruned this and we're now transplanting it, we really want to give it a fighting chance. So I don't want to go pulling anything else off the plant right now, even though that is a runner and it shouldn't be affecting the main stem. Alright, let me get this finished up, guys, and then I'll show you the finished product here, and then I'll show you what we're using to top the soil off. Okay guys, so the potting mix that I'm using, or to add to the top of this, is actually an orchid potting mix, but you can see in the picture here, and I'll show you, it's very much like a mulch, and so I like to use it to top off the plants, as I was mentioning before, because it does help hold moisture. I noticed very well with my apple seedlings, things like that, that this actually did very well for it. So I've used this in some past videos to kind of mix up and utilize. It's a very nice, well-draining type of, almost like a mulch material. So I'm just lightly spreading it around the top. I'm not looking to bury this plant in it. So I only left a little bit of room. But I'm just looking to give something that will help hold the moisture in and help. But I wanted to leave a nice lip on the soil because I obviously don't want this washing out from the rainwater either. So I plan to keep this in the pots this summer, and hoping to plant sometime next summer. So this will overwinter, possibly in the greenhouse. And the greenhouse is cold. I don't have it heated at the moment, so I do expect it to go through its normal winter process, but I want to give it a fighting chance now. So I know the camera got messed up there, guys, so let me bring you in close and show you here a little bit of the finished here. There's our finished potted raspberry. Nice tall, got plenty of room for those roots now. So this is definitely gonna give it its best fighting chance. So I'm gonna get this outside. I'm gonna go ahead and pot up that blackberry bush the same exact way. No difference to it at all. And I'll get these outside so they can get some rainwater. Appreciate you guys taking the time to watch this video, guys. I hope you liked it. Please hit that like button, give it a thumbs up, share it out if you'd like. If you know somebody who's looking to grow some raspberry plants this or blackberry plants this summer. And if you guys could hit that subscribe button and make sure you hit that notification bell so you don't miss any content to come. As always, I hope you're staying safe and enjoying your gardens.